Well, hi everybody. I have several announcements here I wanted to share. You all probably know me, but my name is Lorraine Day, and I'm coming to you from Birch Bay, Washington, which is right at the Canadian border. Welcome to the North American Unitarian Association's first post-summit service. The North American Unitarian Association is a member service organization dedicated to supporting and promoting the practice of liberal religion by embracing freedom, reason, and tolerance, rooted in our commitment to the inherent worth and dignity of every person and all peoples. So, a few announcements before we begin. Um, I want to make sure everybody knows that the summit recordings are available. Almost every session was recorded, and if you were a registered summit participant, you can go same way you logged into the lobby and click on the classes that you're interested in, and there will be a view recording button or something to that effect. Also, NAUA is putting them up slowly up on YouTube. So if you didn't make the summit, you still will have a chance to see some of these classes. They have a few up there already, and it looks like they're just sort of doing them one at a time as they're able. So the NAUA Academy is back after their hiatus. Mark Reimers did a presentation a few days ago on the science of consciousness, and that now is up on the YouTube channel. So you can watch that if you didn't make the actual presentation. I was there, it was great. And on November 11th at 6 p.m. Pacific, the Academy will host a presentation on the life and ideas of John Hassler Dietrich, mystic, humanist, Unitarian. Those familiar with Dietrich are likely to associate his name with religious humanism, the 20th century philosophy that he founded. But Dietrich was at least as much a modern mystic. And in this presentation, Reverend Eckloff, who now occupies the same pulpit Dietrich held a century ago, we'll discuss his humanism in the larger context of Dietrich's mystical yearnings. It's a free lecture, but registration is required, and you can do that on the website naunitarians.org under the programs section. This month, the book club is reading Crazy Like Us, The Globalization of the American Psyche by Ethan Waters, and they'll be meeting on Tuesday the 23rd at 4:30 Pacific time. The theme of the book is how American concepts of mental illness have been spread around the world, while in many cases ignoring local customs and cultural practices. The Forum Circle will be meeting on Sunday, November 2 at 1 o'clock Pacific to discuss human rituals honoring the dead. Reservations are required for this one, and if you'd like to join in, email circles@naunitarians.org. And the NAUA Discussion Circle will meet on November 5 at 4 p.m. Pacific, and this circle is open to all and registration is not required. Again, you can find more information on this on the website on the coming events page. The Liberal Beacon, issue number 17, is now available on the website, and you can find that in the communications section. You can read it online or you can download it. And you can also download past copies, past issues. I do want to mention that we have a new board of trustees elected at the business meeting during the summit. We have some people who are leaving, have served their term. That would be Lynn Janetian, Judy Durham, Terry Anderson, Mike Logg, and Ron Strange. But continuing on are Reverend Eckloff, Stephen Palmer, Bob Simone, Jan Anderson, and Marga Hanna. And we have 4 new elected trustees. Bobby Gaines Bajo. And Bobby, I'm sorry, I've never heard your name pronounced. I hope I'm doing an okay approximation. Lincoln Baxter, Roy Dickerson, and Mark Reimers. We want to thank you all for the work that you're doing for NAUA. Our homily today will be offered by NAUA member and longtime UU minister Alex Holt. Alex is a semi-retired UU minister, currently living in a humble cottage in the forest outside Eugene, Oregon. He's an accredited interim minister and has served congregations in Oregon, Washington, Illinois, Texas, Pennsylvania, and South Carolina for more than 30 years. Currently, he's working on an online support group tentatively called Making Friends with Aging and Death. He also volunteers at cat shelters, and he has a cat who has adopted him 4 years ago, who you may see today. He's also 22 years sober from alcohol, and he leads a Buddhist recovery group. He'll be talking with us today about welcoming the stranger. All right, let's begin.
Going. Let me jam it. There you go. Opening to the light. We light this chalice with an open heart. We light this chalice with resolve. We light this chalice with tears still fresh on our cheeks. We light this chalice in hope a tiny flame we nurture. We light this chalice with reverence for this place, for these people, for this time. We light this chalice with all our souls longing to be who we are, to be who we will be, become, to be ourselves. We light this chalice in self-love, in giving love, in holy love.
Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in.
Okay, thank you. And thank you to everybody being here today. The opening words are from Edwin Markham, who some of you may have heard of. He was a poet, an essayist, and from Oregon City in Oregon. And the church he used to be associated with was a Congregational church, but it's now a Unitarian church. And this particular quote is quite famous. It's actually on the wall, or was on the wall of the church there. And I'm going to change a couple of the pronouns. Quote, they drew a circle that shut me out. Heretic, rebel, a thing to flout. But love and I had the wit to win. We drew a circle and took them in. And those are the opening words.
was beautiful. I really enjoyed that. Now I want to just read for all of us the 6 sources that our Unitarian congregations affirm and promote. We promote the direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. We promote words and deeds of prophetic people which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. Wisdom from the world's religions which inspires us in our ethical and spiritual life. Jewish and Christian teachings which call us to respond to God's love by loving our neighbors as ourselves. Humanist teachings which counsel us to heed the guidance of reason and the results of science, and warn us against the idolatries of the mind and spirit, and spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions which celebrate the sacred circle of life and instruct us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature. And now we will hear from Reverend Alex Holt.
Thank you, Joyce. Well, everybody, thank you again for being here. Here in Western Oregon, it's cloudy and cool and getting towards wintertime. If any of you, well, first of all, let me thank Joyce and Lorraine and Roy and Doug and everyone who's taken part in putting these services together. Have any of you ever been on Amtrak? Yes? No? Maybe? Okay, good. You may or may not remember that, and I think it's changed now because of all the changes in the railroad system, that you would go to the dining car after you had to get a reservation, had to get a number, and then you would be called in. And usually for, the people on the train, they would sit 4 people down at a table and none of us would know each other. And so that was what happened. I had gone to Albuquerque from the San Francisco Bay Area to see my sister, and I was just starting seminary, and I think this was 1988. And so the trip had been great, and I was on my way back home, and I think we were in Southern California someplace. And so we were ushered in, and we sat at the table. None of us knew each other. And so we went around and introduced ourselves. And I remember there was a young woman, and of course I was in my 40s at the time, so 30s, whatever, sitting beside me. And then there was a man sitting across from her. And then there was an older woman sitting across from me, and I was by the aisle. And so, of course, what we did was introduce ourselves, and the woman across from me said, "So, Alex, what do you do?" And I said, with a certain degree of pride, "Well, I start seminary next week." And she looked at me and she said, "Oh, okay. Do you believe in God?" Now, I wasn't prepared for that. I hadn't even started seminary yet. Why was I getting theological questions already? So I said something about the idea of God being inside every person, which to me makes sense. And that wasn't the right thing to say. And so she got kind of red in the face. And I still remember her saying, "You're a heathen, and you shouldn't be teaching impressionable young children." And she turned to the man sitting next to her. And remember, we didn't know each other at all. And she said, "Don't you agree?" And he looked very uncomfortable. And of course, we're still waiting for our food. And he said, "Well, I'm not a religious person. But in this case, I have to say I'd agree with Alex. But you see, I'm a Unitarian Universalist too." Which was the most unexpected event in my life. I mean, let's face it, you can't find Unitarian Universalists all over the place. And of course, the meal came next, thank goodness. And it was an uncomfortable meal because there had been conflict. And I have to say, with some degree of chagrin, that after that meal, and I was going back to my seat, I was thinking to myself, well, we got that woman, didn't we? And as time went on, I thought that wasn't a very kind way to treat a stranger, regardless of her religious traditions. And I'll get back to that a little bit later. I was very anti-Christian in my youth and adulthood. We didn't go to church. I lived on a farm, and Christianity particularly just didn't make any sense to me. And frankly, it still doesn't. But I still remember being very anti-Christian. I would have called myself a religious or secular humanist, but just Christianity didn't make any sense. So I was very mean-spirited. And that didn't manifest itself totally on the train, but it was still there. There were echoes of, well, I certainly got you, didn't I? So I thought about that over the years afterwards, and I got a little bit more mature and a little bit wiser about what would I have done to make that conflict go away and make things easier at that table, because it was pretty intense. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But that's one of the reasons that I came up with the idea of greeting or welcoming a stranger, because really we do this all the time. We go to the grocery store and we're in line to have to buy our food or whatever, or we're maybe at a restaurant and talk to a wait person. So we're welcoming strangers constantly. But what I'm thinking about is, how do we welcome them to our religious communities, whether they are Unitarian, Unitarian Universalist, or Neo-Universalist, whatever they might be. And especially since we can be a little bit heretic ourselves. So that's what I want to talk about for a little bit, because when that person or people come through the door for the first time, just imagine what they're wondering and what do they experience. And there's an old adage, by the way, in interim circles, that what people experience, what people say to them, how the place looks in the first 10 minutes of being in a church will say whether they come back or not. So in any event, when people come through the door as strangers, what are some of the things that we can give to them, and they can give to us, of course, but we can give to them as gifts? Well, one of the things, for example, is you would be amazed how many people have no idea what a chalice lighting is. If they're new to Unitarianism or Unitarian Universalism, they have no idea. And they could Google it quickly, but still, that's something that's on the minds of a lot of people who come to our religious communities. They might be puzzled about the lack of a cross or other religious symbols on the walls. That would be another thing that they might be puzzled about what are these people? And they might have heard from their friends that we are a bunch of cranky misfits. Now, of course, you and I know that we are not, but they might think that. So one of the things that we can really do for the stranger at the door is being able to offer them the opportunity to be able to see us as fellow misfits, or to realize we're not all crazy. So here are some gifts that I think we offer the stranger, and in some ways they also offer to us. The first one, and I've heard this over and over and over the years when we did new member introductions, is the gift of community. People would come and visit, and if they came back a second time, they would say, I never knew this community existed. I didn't know that a church or a fellowship or a congregation could possibly accept someone like me. And because that doesn't work all the time. When I was at another church, we had several men who voted for the current president. And they did not come to services. I think they were a little chagrined by it or whatever, but I didn't want to have them lost to the congregation. So every month, this person and I would get together for coffee. And I would say, I don't want to talk politics. I don't want to talk about climate denial because he didn't think that the climate crisis was real. But there was one thing that we had in common, and that was that we liked to cook brisket, the meat. And so every month when we got together and got our coffee and so on, I would shoo him away from the political statements which he wanted to make. And we would go through brisket and other recipes. And it was fun. And that was the only thing we had in common at that point. But he kept coming to coffee for those 4 years that I was there. And it was wonderful because he didn't feel really terribly left out. And we always had something to talk about. So that's one of the things that I keep thinking about of what gift do we give to a stranger who may not agree with us? And that's also true for children, by the way, and children and youth. And I would say that particularly nowadays, because we're in such a fractured society. The second gift that I think we offer is curiosity. Now, yes, there are many people who say that we are very curious, and they don't quite mean it in an affirming way. But curiosity, I think, is one of the universal norms among Unitarians, Unitarian Universalists, where the curiosity about the meaning of life, for example, or why are we here? What happens after death? And, all of those big questions of life. And so part of what I think our gift to new people can be is giving them the opportunity to be curious and to ask questions without fear of reprisal. And I'm sure some of you were in religious communities when you were children or youth, when you'd ask the wrong question, and that would be a no-no for everybody. Within our congregations, we are welcome to ask questions and have dialogue. Mind you, I am not saying anything about the current state of affairs within the Unitarian Universalist Association. But in terms of, for example, well, what is the meaning of life? And boy, there can be great conversations and services about that. So that's the second one, the gift of curiosity, and as I said, the gift of community. The third one is difficult for some people, but I think it may be one of the most important gifts that we can give people. And that is the gift of spiritual practices. Now, a lot of people have trouble with the word spiritual or spirituality. The way I usually will define it is community. That's all. Spiritual practice is about helping us be more part of community, more part of wholeness within ourselves as people, and being able to be more connected to our families, to ourselves, and to the world at large. And a lot of people, and you've probably heard of them, the nuns, and I'm not talking about the religious order, about 40% of American people don't go to any religious institution whatsoever. They simply do not want to be bothered by all of the doctrines, et cetera, et cetera. And so what they do want, though, are ways in which they can safely develop a meaning of life or practices to really calm themselves in the nature of the world, especially again nowadays. One of those, for example, is a spiritual practice of turning these off on a regular basis. I try to do 1 day a week where I don't turn on any electronic media. It hasn't really worked yet, but I'm still working on it. And I find it really wonderful to be able to have that peace and quiet. An example of that, which I would mention, my life partner, Deborah, who lives in Eugene, does something called Shinrin-yoku, which she's certified in. And Shinrin-yoku is a Japanese term called forest bathing. And you may have heard of it. And she's certified in it. It started in Japan in the 1980s, I think. And the premise is, this is what Deborah does, she takes a number of people out into the forest or fields, whatever it might be, and tells everybody to take a spot away from everyone else with no electronic media and just sit for an hour and take it all in. The breeze, the trees, the wind, sometimes the rain, sometimes the mosquitoes, but just take it all in and just be a receptacle for what the world is trying to share with you. That is a spiritual practice that does not have to have a religious component aside it. Basically, at the end, everybody gets together, they have a picnic, and they talk about what they experienced. Most of the time, it's really positive. Sometimes it's not, but it's a very useful way of getting people out of the busyness of the world. And that's a spiritual practice. The fourth one is the gift of joy. One of the critiques I have with the 7 principles, the 6 sources, and the 6 values of UUism is that I have never found the word joy or laughter in all those words. And joy can mean a lot of different things. For a lot of the places I went to, potlucks or a service auction where there was always a lot of joy. But places and times where we can be joyful together despite all of the chaos and craziness in the world. And so that's one of the things that I think is really essential for our religious communities to find and to embrace and to hold up. And yes, again, it's hard to find joy nowadays, especially now. But I think that is a missing essential of our religious communities. So the gift of community, the gift of curiosity, the gift of spiritual practices, and the gift of joy, I think are 4 of the ways in which we can greet the stranger who comes to our door of our religious community. Now, I want to finish up with the second part of the story, the part that I didn't do, but I wish that I had done. Imagine that things were pretty tense at that table on the train. The older man, who was a Unitarian Universalist, was uncomfortable. The young woman beside me, I think she just wanted to get away from everybody and go back to her space. And then the woman across from me felt betrayed in a bit. I find it hard to, I think basically what she felt, and I still remember her face, is not chagrined, but a little bit humiliated. So one of the things that I would have done when our meal arrived, I would have looked over at her and I would have said, would you be willing to do grace for this meal? I don't know if she would have, but my hope is that she would, and that the grace that she did would have been authentic to her religious tradition. And my hope is that that would have made the meal a little bit more easy, and we would have become, in a way, a small congregation of people having a meal together, having said grace, and being together for a short time, and of course, never seeing each other again. So one of the things that I've been working with all these years, and what I encourage congregations to do, is to the extent we can have an open mind about whatever that person or people who come through our doors means or says, to find out more about them as they find more about us. So that is what I have to say today. And good luck to all of our congregations as we're going through this madhouse of an era. So thank you again, Roy and Doug and Levon and Joyce and Lorraine and David and everybody else. Thank you again.
Here and beyond these walls, as we extinguish this chalice flame, may the warmth of its light remain within us, guiding our steps and our hearts. Let us carry forward the strength of this community, the courage to speak truth, and the hope that transformation is possible. In each breath we take, may we remember that the work of love, justice, and healing is ours to continue, both here and beyond these walls. Go in peace with the light of this gathering to illuminate your way.
Thanks, Alex. That was great. I really enjoyed it. I can't imagine what it was like to be at that table eating a meal afterwards. Thank you.